The transfer portal quarterback names are swirling right now for Tennessee fans. What is real and what is not? We'll try to break through the weeds here on a Friday like on Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome into your Friday morning Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Thanks so much for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. It has been about a week, right? It was last Friday morning when we had the initial report, national report from Pete Nakos at On 3. That was Thursday afternoon, talking about how Nico Iamaleava was renegotiating an NIL deal with Tennessee, and then it transpired into that night how, members of Nico's camp were pushing back and saying that was completely false. And then Friday morning, this time a week ago, Nico Iamaleava does not show up for Tennessee football practice. And, in a lot of a better word, it'd be ghosted, right? Just kind of ghosted, no communication, no talk, wasn't answering his phones, left his teammates out to dry at practice, didn't communicate to the coaching staff. And then it was reported late Friday night he reached out to Joey Halsley and told him his intention of entering the transfer portal. Saturday comes around. You have Josh Heupel saying Tennessee's moving on, and so the breakup happened that fast. Then in between there, you had reports out there from Chris Lowe of ESPN and several others, talking about what Nico's camp wanted in terms of financial with NIL and all that. VolQuest is the first to report that he didn't show up to practice Friday morning. It's been a whole wild. It was a very, very, very fast. We'll call it 48 hours or so, maybe even less than that. In terms of, is this something to, oh man, there's no turning back now. And then now it's kind of been the fallout. What did Josh Heupel have to say about this? What's everybody in the national media having to say about this? What's Tennessee going to do next? And now the transfer portal is open, okay, and Tennessee needs a quarterback. Nico Iamaleava looks like he's going back home to L.A. Colin Cowherd had a tweet out there on, I guess it was Wednesday afternoon, and we'll touch on it here in segment number 2 because I've got some thoughts about that. But it appears, at least it looks like Nico's going to UCLA. I don't think it's officially done right now, but that looks like the likely destination. What's that mean for Tennessee? Jake Merklinger, George McIntyre, 2 scholarship quarterbacks. As we discussed on the show several times already this week, Josh Heupel says, hey, we need another body. We have got to have another body. 2 scholarship quarterbacks are not enough. And we've had this discussion all week long, right? And you've seen it on social media and talk shows and everything and, written articles. How realistic is it that Tennessee goes and gets a sitting Power 4 quarterback? I mean, I've seen tweets and, this name is linked to this name is linked to this name and, comments saying, oh, Tennessee's better than that guy. Tennessee, we deserve better. Tennessee's better than that guy. Again, at least for me, this is my opinion. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to go and get a proven sitting Power 4 starting quarterback that wants to transfer this late in the game. Yes, Tennessee's appealing and all that, but that's a hard sell in my opinion. So you're seeing some names and they're throwing out there. And I mean, the nature of this business here, the nature of where we are at the time of this recording, okay? And recognize I want everybody to hear me. I can hit record, say my piece, hit cut, edit it all up, throw it up there, and then something can happen as soon as I throw it up there. Or I schedule these to come out at midnight every night. You guys know that at 10 o'clock in the evening, something can happen and this can be a little bit outdated. That's kind of the nature of the beast in the transfer portal. Things move very, very quickly. So what I'm trying to get at here is there's been a ton of names, and I want this guy, I want this guy, I want this guy. The factor of the nature of this thing is Tennessee's evaluating options. Tennessee's trying to see kind of what's out there, who could be possibilities, gauging interest, seeing what's going on, evaluating quarterbacks who are in the transfer portal right now, and seeing what this quarterback market kind of shapes up to look like, here over the next couple of days. Remember, transfer portal opened on Wednesday, and you have 10 days to jump in. You do not have to elect your new destination, but if you want to move on, you just have to be in the transfer portal within that 10-day window. So it's very possible for Tennessee to sit here and slow play this at the very beginning, find said quarterback, and then go address wide receiver and whatever else you need. Because, I mean, if I'm a wide receiver right now and I'm getting hit up by Tennessee, why on earth would I want to go to Tennessee right now when I have no clue who will be throwing me the football, whether it be Jake Merklinger or George McIntyre or a player from the transfer portal? So I'm gonna discuss 2 names here And there's been a lot of names out there, and these two names certainly aren't as good as a lot of the names that are out there. But again, these are two that those situations would make sense as type of guys that Tennessee would go after if it turns out that way. One of these guys is in the transfer portal right now. The other isn't, but again, it would make sense if he were to move on. And again, I'm not saying Tennessee's speaking with these guys. I'm just saying right here on Locked On Vols, Eric Kane, these two quarterbacks would make a whole lot of sense if Tennessee were going to try to pursue. Quarterback number 1 is Joey Aguilar, okay? And he is currently at UCLA. He went back home. He's from California. He's currently at UCLA, but as we'll discuss in segment number 2, if Nico truly is UCLA bound, then there's no need for Joey Aguilar, with the Bruins, in my opinion. He came to UCLA, signed a pretty big NIL deal, reportedly around $1 million from App State this offseason. And when he was at App State, he set single-season school records in passing yards, 3,757, passing touchdowns, 33, total offense, 4,002 yards. That was in 2023. He was named the Sun Belt Newcomer of the Year, and then followed that up with making an honorable mention All-Conference in 2024. He played just 2 seasons at Appalachian State, ended up as the number 5 passer all-time in the school's list for touchdown passes, 56, passing yards, 6,760. Very productive at Appalachian State, so he's been in this region. He's played football in this region. He was technically considered the number 44 quarterback in the On3 transfer portal rankings for this offseason. Now, again, we'll talk about this in segment number 2. If Nico to UCLA ends up being finalized and being a done deal, there's no sense in Joey Aguilar sticking around UCLA and not playing football. That would make no sense. So if Nico to UCLA is official, I would assume, right? I mean, it would be silly to stay there and not play. So potentially this young man could hop in the transfer portal, and I think he'd be very, very sought after. I think Tennessee would. I think that'd be a good move for Tennessee, in my opinion. Aguilar played 815 snaps in 2024, 997 snaps in 2023. This is at Appalachian State. He had a Pro Football Focus grade of 71.9 this past season and 76.9 in 2023. Again, group of 5, but the numbers are very, very impressive. 23 touchdowns, 14 picks in 2024, 33 touchdowns, 10 picks in 2023. He threw for 3,003 yards in 2024. He threw for 3,757 yards in 2023. So had a better year in 23, no doubt. Still pretty productive there in 2024. So that's one name that to me would make all the sense in the world if he were to jump in the transfer portal, and that is current UCLA quarterback Joey Aguilar. The next guy I want to break down is reportedly going to enter the transfer portal from Notre Dame, Steven Angeli. He has 1 season remaining. He's a grad transfer, so that would make a whole lot of sense for Tennessee, where, again, beggars can't be choosers, but do you really want to rock the boat when your quarterback, as it stands right now, your quarterback pipeline feels pretty good? You like George, his makeup. Okay, he's a true freshman. You've got Faison Brandon coming in. He's not even on campus right now, but he's arguably the top quarterback in the country for the 2026 class. And then you got Jake Merklinger, who, in all intents and purposes, if the season started right now, he'd be your starting quarterback. So this would kind of make a whole lot of sense. 1 year grad transfer, come in. He hasn't played an awful lot, all right, but he did make a big impression in the college football playoffs this past winter. Semifinal game against Penn State, Orange Bowl. He came in when Riley Leonard was out for a drive when he was injured to end the first half. He led the Fighting Irish down the field for a 2-minute drive that ended in a field goal, ending the first half in a field goal. He was 6 for 7 on said drive, 44 yards. Pulled the Irish within 1 score of the Nittany Lions at the time. And he finished his Notre Dame career 3 seasons, 58 completions, 80 pass attempts, 722 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception in 21 games. Throughout his career, again, I just mentioned that 7 touchdowns this past year, 1 interception, primarily in mop-up duty. He did have 1 start for Notre Dame throughout his career, 3 touchdowns, no pick in 2024. Sorry, 2023 was 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. 2024, 3 touchdowns, no pick as the backup quarterback to Riley Leonard. Essentially, he tried to be the guy. He was never the guy in South Bend, and so he's moving on. a guy that, again, hasn't played a ton of football, doesn't have a ton of starting experience. But for you to go in there in a big moment, a semifinal playoff game there, and produce a scoring drive of some sorts, it's pretty big. That's pretty big in my opinion. You look at him over at Pro Football Focus. This past fall, he played in 103 snaps, 82.3 Pro Football Focus grade. 2023, 135 snaps, 73.7 Pro Football Focus grade. And in 2022, he had 7 snaps under his belt. So, again, this one, Steven Angeli, reportedly going to the transfer portal, trying to seek a new home. That would make a ton of sense to me. Again, not an established starter, obviously. Does have a bit of experience. Veteran, come in at minimum pushing this group of young quarterbacks. Again, I don't know if Tennessee's talked to him yet. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying here on Locked On Vols, that would make all the sense in the world. So, in my opinion, 2 names to be on the lookout for. One, reportedly going to the transfer portal right now, Steven Angeli from Notre Dame. And then, depending on Nico, and if that's finalized with UCLA, Joey Aguilar, who's coming from App State back home to UCLA. But, of course, that was before the Nico Iamaleava report from Colin Cowherd, which we'll get into in segment number 2. It's amazing to me, this narrative they're still spinning here from Nico's camp. According to the Cowherd tweet, what is Nico's camp saying it's truly about? Because they're saying it's not about the money. Oh boy, hilarious. We'll get into that as we return right here on your Friday morning Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and so much more, easily as you stream your favorite shows as well. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds that you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribe services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and so much more. Head on over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select TVs, including Fire TV Stick 4K, 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4 Max, 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube, 3rd Gen. Go on over at Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. So it's Wednesday afternoon. I'm looking at the timestamp right now. Eastern Time, 3:49 Eastern Time on Wednesday afternoon. And according to this, I don't know if that's local here on the X, but nonetheless, it was Wednesday afternoon. Colin Cowherd, of course, he's not in the breaking news business whatsoever, but he is one of the biggest personality in all of sports on a national level. Has been doing this quite some time, his talk show, the simulcast TV show, all that. He says, quote, he tweets this out, quote, "I am told moments ago, Nico Iamaleava is going to UCLA. Family still claims it's, in all caps, not about the hashtag money bag or emoji money bag. It's about the @Vol_football offense. I was not told what the Bruins are paying." That was the tweet Wednesday afternoon via Colin Cowherd. Okay. Interesting stuff here, to say the least. So, Nico to UCLA, first and foremost, makes all the sense in the world. West Coast, going back home. You always thought UCLA, Cal, Oregon, somewhere like that would make sense. Number 2, though, let's not forget, Madden, younger brother of Nico, was committed to UCLA, and him and I believe a receiver, both on National Signing Day, flipped to Arkansas. So UCLA had to be feeling a little some type of way about the Iamaleavas to begin with. Nonetheless, obviously, a suitor in this regard, and that's just going to be really awkward and weird in my opinion. Number 2, Chris Lowe points out, he went on X last night, Chris Lowe of ESPN, saying that the deal is not officially done yet, but it does look like that's probably what's going to happen. And he said if it does get finalized, the deal is going to come nowhere close to what Iamaleava's camp reportedly wanted in $4 million. I've seen who's to know exactly how much he's going to make, so I'm not going to sit here and try to act like I know, but I've seen some reports say 1.8 and all that. I did look up kind of, the mark. I mean, obviously the state income tax out there, it is very much an expensive way of life in LA compared to here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Somewhere around of, what you were making and living on here in East Tennessee, it's essentially, if you make, say you make $4 million in LA, you got to subtract like 1.3 million off of it, and that's what you're getting here. So say he gets a big time cut and you're only making $2 million, subtract whatever off that, the percentages. My point is, it is not even going to be worth the deal that he's getting, in my opinion, based on what he was having here. I mean, that's why Rick Barnes didn't go to UCLA, right? And Rick Barnes, recorded by UCLA way back when, and they were going to offer him $5 million, but when it's all said and done, he was going to be taking a pay cut compared to what he was making here at Tennessee because of the cost of living out there and because of the taxes and all that. So this is going to be mind-blowing if this does end up being finalized and, we get to see a reported figure out there. It's going to be interesting. Also, again, per Coward's tweet, the family claims it's still not about the money. It's about the Vol football offense. And here's where I want to get into this conversation. Simply put, you played in a college football playoff game on December the 21st. You lost that game. You had a week then until the portal closed. Actually, you had more than a week. You had 6 days. You had a little less than a week. 6 days until the portal officially closed, I believe. Even if you kept on winning and you went past that December 27th, mile mark or whatever when the portal closed or whatever, you would still have 3 days after that at the end of the portal if you were a playoff team or a bowl team playing after that date. You had your opportunity to leave in the month of December if it was truly about the offense, about the scheme, about the worries of wide receivers or offensive line. But you didn't. You stayed there. You didn't enter the transfer portal. Everything seemed to be okay. So if it was about the offense now, wasn't it about the offense then? Josh Heupel's still the head coach. Andy Staples came out and quote tweeted the report, I believe, from Colin Cowherd or whoever. Yeah, it was Colin Cowherd. And said, Josh Heupel is still the head coach. You knew that in December. Thus, you knew the offense wasn't going to be changing. Sure, are there going to be some tweaks in 2025? I believe so, some tweaks. Is the scheme and the offense going to change? No, it is not. So you knew all this in the month of December. So why is it a big deal now? That's the question. And ultimately, I don't like to sit here and just, pile on, when someone's down. But, the fact of the matter is, Iamaleava, if you look at Josh Heupel's quarterbacks throughout his tenure as a head coach or an OC in this league, Iamaleava's 1 year as a starting quarterback, the worst statistically. He threw for 2,616 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 13 games. Hendon Hooker in 21 and 22 threw for 2,945 yards, 31 touchdowns, 3 picks, to 3,135 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 2 picks in his 2 years as a starting quarterback. Joe Milton, when we thought it was rock bottom and it was awful, he threw for 2,813 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 picks. Now, those numbers weren't much better than Iamaleava's, but they were better as Iamaleava was his true freshman backup at the time. 3 seasons at UCF. Okay, so just as a head coach or OC, not necessarily in the SEC. Josh Heupel had Mackenzie Milton and Dylan Gabriel as starting quarterbacks. Milton threw for 2,663 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 picks in 2018. Gabriel, 3,600 yards, 3,653 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in 2019. And then in 2020, 3,370 yards, or I guess his next year as a starter, 3,570 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Not bad whatsoever. As Missouri's OC with Drew Lock in 2016 and 2017, Lock threw for over 300. So he threw for 3,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, 10 picks, and then in the next year, 3,900 yards, 44 touchdowns, and 13 picks. Go all the way back to being an offensive coordinator at Utah State in 2015 and co-offensive coordinator during his time at Oklahoma with Kent Myers and Chucky Keaton. those numbers were still better than what Nico Iamaleava did in 1 year. And again, there was contributing factors. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but if you go by just the numbers, Nico's 1 year as a starting quarterback in Knoxville was the worst for a starting quarterback under Josh Heupel. And thanks to our good buddy, Chris Marler here of Locked On Gamecocks. Of course, he's a big-time SEC personality on X. If you're watching on YouTube, he made these lovely graphics here. And he kind of points out exactly what I was saying right now. Got the Heupel quarterback average from 2017 to 2023, and then he's got Nico's 2024 season. Points per game, 40.5 to 35.7. Yards per game, or yards per pass, 6.81 to 6.07. Yards per attempt, 8.8 to 7.7. So on and so forth. Touchdowns, 29.7 to 19. He goes on to say in the second graphic, Nico had the third lowest QBR of any starting quarterback for Josh Heupel, second lowest scoring offense, lowest yards per pass. Again, some of this is misleading because of what Tennessee did in SEC play, but still, bottom line, the stats don't lie. In 1 year, and that's why it's so disappointing, because I think Nico can be so much better, truly. The more experience he gets and the more playing, I mean, the talent level, he's as talented, if not... I'm not, Dylan Gabriel is up there, and Heupel's coaching pretty good quarterbacks. Drew Lock was an NFL, early round pick. He's got super talent, I guess what I'm trying to say, and he can play so much better. But in year one, as a starting quarterback, his numbers are the worst of any starting quarterback for Josh Heupel as an OC or a head coach. So it's kind of interesting. We'll see if it gets finalized. Nico to UCLA over the weekend. That was always kind of the likely destination, and then North Carolina jumped in there. Tulane was in there for a little bit. Heard a little Syracuse talk. Hello, storylines galore. That would have been a blast if Nico went to Syracuse, and he still may end up there until anything's official, signed, and delivered, and the school announces that Nico's a part of the team. Who knows what can happen? But Nico Iamaleava to UCLA, it's not about the money, clearly. It's about the Vol offense. Okay, well... You knew all this in December. So if it was truly about all that, then why did you remain here and go through spring drills? That is a question that I certainly do not have the answer to. So we'll see what happens in the Nico Iamaleava saga if it becomes official over the weekend that he is committed to the University of to UCLA. We will see what happens, but obviously right now the important things here on this show and here with Tennessee fans is who is going to lead the Volunteers at the quarterback position next year. Going to be from the transfer portal. If there's any new names that emerge, we'll discuss right here on Locked On Vols. Urban Meyer said what about Tennessee? Clearly you've heard. If you haven't, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you why he is flat out wrong. Gosh, shocker, Urban Meyer being wrong about something. Yeah, he's been wrong about a lot, and he's wrong about this. You guys know me. I have a lot of disdain for Brian Kelly and for Urban Meyer. I do not like those two individuals. No, I do not. I personally, this is my personal opinion, okay? So this is my platform to where I can share my personal opinion. I don't think that they're very good people. I think Urban Meyer is a horrendous human being, but that's, again, just my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own. I think they're obviously good coaches. I think Urban Meyer is a incredible coach. And now Urban Meyer, who has never coached in the NIL era, and let's all laugh, let's all point and laugh at his little going down to Jacksonville with the Jaguars and trying to walk in like he knew more than anybody and he was bigger than the NFL, and that lasted, 10 games and some off-the-field drama? Oh, yeah, there was tons of drama with this kicker, too. Oh, yeah. Urban Meyer, that was hilarious. But anyway, Urban Meyer at the college realm was a fantastic coach. Nobody can dispute that. He's very knowledgeable. I don't watch Big Noon Kickoff much because if I'm watching anything that morning before the Saturday games and I'm going to cover Tennessee, it's game day or something, or SEC Now or morning or whatever. But I have watched over the years a little bit of Urban Meyer on Big Noon Kickoff, and he's really good. He's very knowledgeable about the sport. I'm not shocked. He's good at speaking and communicating, and he says things in the way that we can understand. He does a great job. He also has a podcast, okay, The Triple Option, where Mark Ingram and a couple other guys are on there as well. And this past week, after all the news of the divorce with Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava, he had something to say about that. Quote, "Here's the reality. Tennessee is screwed, end quote. Here's the reality. Tennessee is screwed. From the outside looking in, yes, it is not a good look. And I'm not trying to sit here and spin it like this is a good thing. We've talked about this ad nauseum this week. At the end of the day, it was April the 12th, and you lost your starting quarterback on a team that is playoff winning ready now. Yes, there's questions about the O-line. I'll get into all this here in a moment. There's questions. But the talent level here for Josh Heupel, it's a very good roster. And you lost your starting quarterback. Did you make it to the playoffs because of him? No. But was he the starter for every game last year for a team that beat Florida, beat Alabama, and made it to the college football playoffs? Yes, yes, and yes. So anybody trying to spin this like this is a good thing, it's false. Is this the right decision long-term? Absolutely. So I understand from an outsider's perspective that doesn't know what the roster is and doesn't know what the situation is, like Urban Meyer, to say, quote, here's the reality, Tennessee's screwed. I get it from that perspective. He goes on to say, but he's wrong, but I'll tell you in a moment. He goes on to say, quote, everybody's saying, nice job, Tennessee, making a stand. I've got a little comment on that. Tennessee plays Florida usually every year in October. Can you imagine the games going the other way and Coach Heupel grabs the microphone and stands on the 50-yard line in Neyland Stadium and says, it's okay, I made a stand way back then. Couple of inaccuracies there. Number one, Tennessee and Florida doesn't play in October this year. He's right, they usually do, but not this year. Actually, they used to play in September a lot. Tennessee and Florida are playing in late November, and the game's actually in the Swamp. So again, I don't expect him to know maybe all those things, but he is a big Florida fan still. He's been out of the coaching game for a long time. I know he was at Ohio State after Florida, but there's a couple of inaccuracies in there. But nonetheless, he's right about this. Like, fans are going to be angry if you're losing that game. Fans are going to be angry if you drop a game you're not supposed to. Like, that is 100% fact. And I've said that this week, like, let's keep this energy. Let's remember that if you are going into a game led by Jake Merklinger, who I think is going to be a fine quarterback, but is he ready to start right now? I would say probably not, because that was not the plan. You got to remember that you were all behind your coach in April when he decided to part ways with Nico, which again was the right decision. But all that stuff there, Urban Meyer said was correct, but I completely disagree with here's the reality, Tennessee is screwed. Because again, as we've discussed, this roster is win now ready. Running backs, love them. Wide receivers, can't be much worse. Offensive line, it did one thing really well last year, and it was run block for Dylan Sampson. And I'm not going to take that away from him. That was a unit that blocked its tail off. Pass pro, it was a ride. Injuries-wise, it was a ride. There was a lot about the offensive line play that wasn't great last year. Bring in 2 interior offensive linemen, I think it's going to help an awful lot. I do. I think the offensive line can be just fine. I do. Defensively, it's going to be good again. It is going to be good again. Okay? So this roster is good. At minimum, go get a game manager, and who knows? You'll win 9 or 10 games potentially. You could have made the argument last year that Nico Iamaleava was a game manager. I'm not going to go down that road, but you can certainly, based off stats and based off quality of play, or you can just say, well, you have a young quarterback, first-year starter, SEC, great defense, elite running back, go win games. That's the way I choose to believe it. But if you go off stats on paper, you can make the argument that Nico was a game manager last year. So at minimum, if you have a game manager at quarterback next year, you can go win you a lot of football games, in my opinion. If you go get one of these 2 quarterbacks that I mentioned in segment number 1, potentially if he decides to enter the portal, and Joey Aguilar from UCLA by way of App State, or Steven Angeli of Tennessee shows a lot of interest there from Notre Dame. He is reportedly going to the transfer portal. You can win a lot of games with those guys, in my opinion. At minimum, being a game manager. So Urban Meyer, I think he's a great football mind. I think he's a winning football coach. I think he's a great broadcaster. I completely disagree with the Tennessee is screwed notion. I completely disagree with that. Also, all those nice things I said about him, you guys know I don't like him. I think he's not a very good human being. All right, so that's on that. Last little bit of information here. Last little bit of conversation before we say goodbye for the weekend. Maybe if it's anything like last weekend, I'll have about 5 or 6 podcasts up before we see you Monday morning. John Slaughter reportedly heading to the NCAA transfer portal. Safety for Tennessee. Thought he was a really, really good prospect back in the class of 2023. Never really found a footing here. Kind of surprised he didn't enter the transfer portal earlier, to be completely frank with you. Always battling to try to get in the two deep at safety. Never really was there. Special teams player, but that's kind of all he was. And really heading into this year, I don't think that he was going to crack the two deep at safety. I think Idris Farouk had passed him. I think Caleb Beasley had passed him. And, of course, you've got Christian Charles, didn't practice, but he's still at safety. You've got Jacoby Thomas and Andre Turrentine. So I think John Slaughter was buried at the safety position, but I do think he's a good talent. I do think he's a good athlete, and we'll see where he goes. Could he follow Nico Iamaleava to UCLA if that becomes official? Those guys are really close. We'll see. We'll see. But John Slaughter, so far, at the time of this recording, the only departure to the transfer portal for Tennessee. It's been a busy week. It's been a fun week. We're going to still track and see who Tennessee's going to get in terms of a quarterback via the transfer portal, and we will discuss all that and more right here on Locked On Vols. Baby's coming at some point. All goes according to plan. It will be Wednesday morning or sometime on Wednesday. I've got a couple of you guys know my struggle. I had four evergreen shows ready to go. Boom, boom, boom. The only person on the team that could screw up all that would be the quarterback in Nico Iamaleava. So I went and salvaged two of the episodes, one of which top plays from the 2024 season, which is fine. I'll probably lead off with that. The other one, me and Chris Cordy kind of go back and forth game by game. I cut out all the Nico talk. There's a lot of good stuff still in there. We do win totals from around the SEC too. So I salvaged that one the best I could. We're going to play those two episodes, and then Chris Gordy's going to probably fill in for me maybe for a show or two as we continue on. But that might not be until late next week or maybe even the next week if everything goes according to plan and he doesn't come sooner. But exciting times, looking forward to it. I just want to let you guys know that if you listen to an episode maybe late next week or early the following week and it's like, oh, is he really talking about that? Nico Iamaleava is not here anymore. That's because it was pre-recorded. But I did the best I could to salvage those things. Anyway, appreciate you guys as always. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell that Tennessee fan in your life that this is the show for them. Please download and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting on? Please help us out. Let's get this video in front of more and more Tennessee fans. What all could be happening until the next time we speak? Hopefully a lot right here on Locked On Vols we'll discuss.